It was supposed to be the happiest trip of their lives. Mark and Alina had saved 4 years to take their twin daughters, Lily and Lucy, on a cruise around the Mediterranean. The girls had just turned 8. They were full of joy, always giggling, and always holding hands. Being twins, they shared everything: clothes, toys, and even their thoughts sometimes. Their parents called them two hearts in one rhythm. The cruise ship, called Ocean Pearl, was massive. It had 13 decks for swimming pools, restaurants from every country, a theater, and even a small zoo for children. When the family first boarded the ship, the twins' eyes sparkled like stars. They ran from one end to the other, stopping to peek over the railings and waving at the seagulls. Lena laughed and reminded them not to run too far. Mark took out his phone and captured as many pictures as he could. This was their dream vacation. They would visit Italy, Greece, Malta, and Spain, all within 2 weeks. The family wanted to make memories that would last forever. Everything was perfect for the first few days. The twins loved the kids' area, especially the mini water park and the treasure hunt games organized by the staff. They made a few friends on the ship and even had a little dance party one night near the pool. Mark and Elena were happy to see their daughters enjoying themselves. They felt like all the hard work, all the years of saving money were worth it. On the 6th day, the ship was scheduled to dock in Malta. It was a beautiful sunny morning. The family woke up early, had breakfast together, and discussed their plans for the island. Mark wanted to take a walking tour of a historic town. Elena wanted to shop for souvenirs. The girls just wanted ice cream and maybe some time at the arcade before getting off the ship. Lena stopped to speak to a neighbor from their home city, who was also on the cruise. While she chatted for a few minutes, the twins asked if they could walk ahead to the arcade with their cousin Natalie, who was 12. The arcade wasn't far. It was near the kids' center on deck 5. Alina looked at Mark. He nodded. 5 minutes, and stay together, he said. That was the last time they saw the twins, after 10 minutes passed. Alina and Mark headed down to the arcade with ice cream cones in their hands, expecting to surprise the girls. But when they got there, the arcade was empty. Natalie stood there alone, looking confused. They were just here, Natalie said. They said they wanted to check out the secret floor that one of the waiters joked about last night. I thought they were just pretending. Elena's heart dropped. Mark ran down the hallway, calling their names. Nothing at first. They thought maybe the twins had gone to the bathroom or were hiding somewhere to play a trick. But after 30 minutes passed with no sign of them, the fear began to grow ship. Security was alerted. Announcements were made. The ship's crew searched every public area, then every private one. The swimming pools were checked, the engine rooms, the medical bay. Nothing. No one remembered seeing the girls after they left the arcade. Surveillance footage was reviewed. There was a clear video of Lily and Lucy walking hand in hand into the hallway that led to the back stairwell. But no. Footage showed them coming back out. The hallway led to crew-only areas. That part of the ship wasn't open to guests. Made no sense. Mark and Elena's vacation turned into a nightmare. The ship's captain was informed immediately. The coast guard near Malta was contacted. Local police boarded the ship and started questioning passengers and crew. The ship stayed docked an extra day to assist in the investigation, but even with divers in the water and dogs on land, there was no sign of the girls. Not a shoe, not a bracelet, nothing. When the ship finally moved on to its next destination, Mark and Elena refused to leave Malta. They stayed behind, hoping for any clue. They visited nearby ports, showed photos of the girls to locals, taxi drivers, vendors. They printed hundreds of flyers with the girls' faces on them. Every day felt like a blur, waiting, hoping, crying. The rest of the cruise went on. Other families took selfies, watched sunsets, enjoyed dinners and shows. But for one family, the world had stopped. Lena felt like she was floating in a space where time didn't exist. She couldn't eat. She couldn't sleep. She just kept hearing the girls' laughter in her head. Back in Seattle, their home stood quiet and still. The twin school held a prayer circle. Their teachers sent messages of support. The community rallied to help, setting up donation funds to assist with the search. But days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and no new leads came forward.
Natalie,
blamed herself. "I shouldn't have let them leave," she whispered to her parents. "They were my responsibility." No one blamed her, but she carried the weight in her small shoulders. She stopped smiling. She stopped drawing. She began sleeping with a flashlight under her pillow, just in case. 10 months passed. Mark tried everything. He hired private investigators, contacted news outlets, and joined online communities for missing children. He made regular posts, shared old videos of the girls playing the piano, dancing, painting. He even flew back to Malta twice to meet people who claimed to have tips. But each lead ended in disappointment. Alina spent most of her days in the twins' room. She kept their toys in the same place. She read their favorite bedtime books out loud each night. "In case they hear me," she said quietly to herself. Some days were harder than others. But what hurt the most was not knowing. Were they alive? Were they together? Were they safe? The not knowing was a hole that never closed. One rainy morning, something changed. A phone call came from southern Sicily. A fisherman had found something unusual on the beach. A large, water-damaged suitcase. It had no tags, no name, no address. But inside it were 2 small dresses. One pink, one lavender, folded gently. With name tags stitched inside, Lily and Lucy. And just like that, hope lit up again. After months of darkness, anything had finally washed ashore. Mark and Alina held each other tightly when they heard the news. The pain never went away, but for the first time in a long while, it was mixed with something new. Maybe a sign, maybe a clue, maybe a beginning. The suitcase found on the rocky beach in Sicily brought new hope and fresh mystery. It had been discovered by a quiet fisherman named Carlo, who had no idea that his morning walk would change everything for a grieving family across the sea. When he saw the suitcase lying near the water, half buried in sand and seaweed, his first thought was that someone must have lost their luggage during the storm. It wasn't unusual for the sea to throw things up, but this suitcase looked different. It was old, heavy, and soaked through, but still sealed. Carlo tried to lift it. The suitcase felt heavier than it should for something that looked like it had been in the water for days. It didn't open easily. The zippers were rusted, and the lock was jammed with sand. Carlo didn't want to damage it further, so he called the local police station to report it. A few officers arrived within the hour. They took the suitcase back to their station and began carefully opening it. Inside, they found something they didn't expect. Folded gently on top were 2 little dresses. One was light pink with small white flowers. The other was lavender with soft lace around the edges. Both looked carefully kept, like someone had protected them from the sea. There was a slight scent of soap, as if they had been washed before being packed. The officers found something else to each. Dress had a name tag sewn inside. One said Lily, the other said Lucy. The officers looked at each other. Those names sounded familiar. Next, they found a photograph. It was a print, not from a phone. In the picture, 2 identical girls were sitting at a cruise ship's ice cream bar, holding cones, laughing, their eyes filled with joy. Behind them, there were people walking by, and a waiter holding a tray. It wasn't taken by a family member. It was taken by someone else, from a short distance away. Alongside the photo, there was a music box, small and wooden, shaped like a heart. It was old but still worked. When one officer turned the key, a soft lullaby began to play, a tune that might have once played during bedtime, or as a comfort when the world felt big and scary. Then came something even stranger. Inside a children's storybook placed at the bottom of the suitcase, they found a typed note. The note wasn't long. It had only 1 sentence. "They are safe. Don't stop searching." It wasn't signed. There were no fingerprints, no clear traces of where it came from. But the tone of the note wasn't cold. It felt careful. Like someone had gone through a lot of trouble to pack this suitcase. Like someone wanted to give hope but not too much. A clue, but not the answer. As soon as the authorities confirmed the names on the dresses matched the names of the twins who had vanished months earlier, the news traveled fast. Police in Sicily contacted international authorities. Soon, Mark and Alina were on a video call with officers. Looking at the dresses, the music box, the photograph, Alina burst into tears when she saw the photo. "That's them," she whispered. "That's Lily's favorite dress. That's Lucy's hair clip." Mark stared at the screen without blinking. He asked. The officers explained everything: where the suitcase was discovered, how it was packed, and what else was inside. The photo, the note, the dresses. But even after this breakthrough, they still didn't know who had packed it. Or how. It had reached the shores of Sicily. Experts were brought in. Forensic scientists studied every detail of the suitcase. They checked the salt levels on the clothes, the age of the photograph, and the fibers inside the lining. They discovered that the suitcase had likely been in the water for a few weeks, maybe a month, but the contents inside were remarkably dry, which meant someone had wrapped them very carefully, possibly with waterproof layers. Some believed the suitcase had been placed in the water intentionally, like someone had planned for it to be found. This was no accident. Investigators also examined the photograph closely. The background matched the design of the Ocean Pearl cruise ship. The waiter in the background wore the same uniform as the cruise line staff. This confirmed the photo was real land, taken while the twins were still on the ship. But the question remained: who took it, and why? Interpol opened a new case. The search expanded beyond Malta and into southern Europe. People began reviewing footage from other ports. A woman in Tunisia claimed she saw twin girls with a middle-aged woman who spoke English with a French accent. The woman had boarded a bus, headed for the countryside. The girls were wearing matching hats and carrying small backpacks. It wasn't much, but it was something. Mark and Alina flew to Sicily. They were shown the suitcase in person. Alina held the dresses and cried quietly, stroking the fabric like she was touching her daughters again. Mark held the music box to his ear and closed his eyes, remembering the nights he used to wind it up and place it between their beds before they fell asleep. This was packed with love, Alina said softly. Whoever did this, they cared. They didn't hurt them. The couple was filled with both hope and confusion. The note had said they are safe. But safe where? And with whom? The investigators agreed on one thing: the suitcase was not random. It was a message. But it was also a warning. Whoever had the girls wanted the world to know they were alive, but they didn't want to be found just yet. Puzzle piece. And if the right pieces were put together, the truth could be found. Meanwhile, Mark took a bold step. He went on live television and made a direct appeal. To the person who packed that suitcase, he said, "If you're watching this, please know we are grateful. We believe you care for our girls. We don't want to cause trouble. We just want to know they are okay. Please send us another sign. Just let us know how they are. We are listening. We are waiting." His voice cracked. Alina stood beside him, holding his hand tightly. The broadcast went viral. People around the world started paying attention again. Social media pages dedicated to missing persons shared the story. Volunteers in Europe began organizing search groups. People checked ports, hostels, schools. Even cruise workers came forward to give their side of the story. One former staff member who had worked in the kitchen said there were old, unused rooms below the storage deck rooms that had once been used for workers long ago, but were now off limits. He said no one checked there often. Some believed the twins might have been hidden there and then taken off the ship quietly. But none of it could be proven. There were only theories, no clear answers. Still, the hope was alive again. A suitcase had floated through the sea, carried by waves and time, and landed on a shore with a quiet message. It didn't solve the mystery, but it reopened the door. And far away, in a small town no one was watching, two little girls with matching bracelets played in a dusty garden. Under the warm sun, their laughter carried by the wind. The story wasn't over. Something was still coming, and it was only a matter of time. Shall I continue with part 3? After the discovery of the suitcase, things changed for Mark and Alina. For the first time in nearly a year, people began to talk about Lily and Lucy again. The news of the suitcase spread across the internet like wildfire. Journalists from different countries reached out to the family. The twins, smiling faces, appeared once again on TV screens, newspapers, and phones across the world. But this time, there was hope behind the headlines. Alina felt something new in her heart, a feeling she hadn't allowed herself in months. It wasn't just hope, it was a strong sense that her girls were out there somewhere, still alive. Mark, too, began to feel it. He started waking up with purpose. Instead of sitting in silence all day, he began contacting people again, calling detectives, emailing specialists, and researching areas around the Mediterranean where the suitcase might have drifted from. The police and Coast Guard had already examined ocean currents and wave directions. They believed the suitcase might have floated from somewhere near Tunisia or southern Malta. But there was one problem. The ocean doesn't give straight answers. It moves with the wind, and it can carry something in circles for days. Still, the experts agreed. The suitcase couldn't have been in the water for more than a month. That meant someone packed it recently. This detail gave the investigation new energy. If the girls were still alive just a few weeks ago, then they could still be alive now. The team started going through tips again, this time more carefully. One particular message stood out. A woman from a small village in northern Tunisia had sent an email 3 months earlier. At the time, it had been marked as uncertain and left unanswered. But now, after the suitcase was found, it seemed important in her email. The woman said she had seen twin girls with light brown hair walking with an older woman near the local market. The girls looked clean and well-fed, but quiet. They didn't speak to anyone. The older woman, who seemed to be in her late 50s, wore simple clothes and had a scarf around her head. She spoke French and didn't seem friendly. The woman who sent the message remembered the girls because they were wearing matching dresses, and because one of them dropped a small toy. The police reached out to this witness again and sent her photos of Lily and Lucy. She confirmed. Yes, it was them. She was sure. Mark and Alina flew to Tunisia immediately. The village was peaceful, with narrow streets, white stone houses, and colorful doors. Children played in the dirt roads, and goats walked freely. The local people were kind but guarded. Most of them didn't know anything. Or maybe they were just scared to talk. But then, a man who owned a small cafe said he remembered seeing the girls too. He said the woman they were with had come to buy bread several times in the past few months. She always paid in cash, spoke very little, and never allowed the girls to answer questions. He also remembered something else. The woman always wore a necklace with a round gold pendant. Once when the twins were walking behind her, they hummed a tune. It was soft but clear, a lullaby. Alina gasped when she heard that. It was the same melody the twins' music box played. The same melody she had sung to them every night since they were babies. The family worked with local police to search the nearby areas. Houses, shops, and coastal paths were checked. One of the roads led to an abandoned beach cottage, about 30 minutes outside the village. It was quiet, with overgrown grass and an old boat lying sideways near the gate. At first glance, it looked empty. But something made Mark stop at the fence. He saw faint footprints in the sand, small ones, when the officers unlocked the door. The house smelled of lavender soap. Inside, the furniture was simple: 2 small beds, a table, a few chairs. On the windowsill was a row of smooth sea stones painted with flowers. On one of the beds lay a teddy bear. Lena picked it up and froze. She turned it over and opened the back pocket. Inside was a paper tag with Lucy's name written in her handwriting. "They were here," Lena whispered, her hands shaking. The cottage had been lived in, but whoever had stayed there was gone now. In a drawer, they found a drawing: 2 girls holding hands, standing next to a woman with short hair and a big sun in the corner. Underneath were the words, "Mercy, Mamang Marie." The name Marie stood out. Interpol searched for any woman named Marie who matched the description. Late 50s. French-speaking, possibly traveling alone, with connections to the Mediterranean region. One name came up: Marie Duval, a former cruise ship nurse who had worked on the Ocean Pearl for many years. And left without much notice shortly after the twins vanished, that piece of information sent shockwaves through the team. Marie had access to all parts of the ship. She knew the lower levels, the Cronley areas, the storage rooms. She also had a good reputation: gentle, kind, trustworthy. But when investigators tried to locate her, she had no fixed address, no social media. Only a few bank records showing small purchases in remote areas. It was possible, maybe. It's even likely that she had taken the girls. But why? Theories began to form. Maybe Marie had discovered the girls wandering into a restricted part of the ship and, fearing punishment, decided to hide them. Or maybe she believed she was saving them. Maybe she had her reasons, emotional, personal. Even painful ones no one knew about yet. Whatever the truth, one thing became clear. Marie had been with them, and she had kept them alive. Mark and Alina now believed the suitcase had been sent by her. A message to let them know the girls were okay, without giving away too much. They didn't know if Marie meant to return the girls one day, or if she was still hiding. But one thing was sure: she cared for them. She dressed them, fed them, and protected them. Still, Mark and Alina didn't want to just be thankful. They wanted their daughters home. Every day away from them was another day lost. A few weeks later, another lead came in, this time from Morocco. A traveler from Canada had seen a woman with two identical girls buying groceries in a quiet mountain town. The girls spoke English. The woman didn't let them talk much. She had a gold pendant. She said her name was Marie. Authorities began preparing. The search had a new direction. The parents had a new hope. And somewhere, far from crowds and cameras, two girls whispered in the night. Looking at the stars through the window, they missed home, and the world was finally closing in, one clue at a time. The moment the new tip came from Morocco, Mark and Alina packed their bags. They had learned not to jump too quickly for every rumor, but something about this one felt different. The Canadian tourist had taken a photo not of the woman directly, but of the shop she had visited. In the corner of the photo, two girls could be seen through the glass. They were sitting on a bench, holding a paper bag between them. Both wore matching headbands, and one of them had a familiar dimple on her left cheek. Alina cried when she saw the photo. "That's Lucy," she whispered. "That's our girl." Interpol officials worked with Moroccan police to begin a quiet search. The town was small, tucked into the hills, surrounded by olive trees and narrow roads. It was a peaceful place where people knew each other by name. Outsiders rarely came. The locals were kind but cautious when officers started asking questions. Not everyone trusted police, and fewer trusted reporters, who started arriving soon. After Mark and Alina were advised to stay at a small guest house outside the town. It wasn't safe for them to walk around and ask questions themselves. The police feared that if the woman Marie was still there, she might panic and leave again. So, the search had to be silent and careful. Meanwhile, Mark stared at the photo. Over and over again, he zoomed in until the faces became blurry. Lena played the same lullaby from the music box each night. She believed it connected her to her daughters. "They remember this tune," she told Mark. "I know it." The police began searching the town's rental records, guest logs, and local shops. A pattern began to appear. Over the past 2 months, a woman using the name Madame Marie had been buying small amounts of groceries, always from the same store. She came alone most of the time, but was sometimes seen with two girls who looked like twins. The shopkeeper remembered them because they always whispered to each other in English. She was polite. The shopkeeper told officers, "Never asked for anything special. It's just bread, milk, and sometimes children's vitamins." Another neighbor said they had seen the girls drawing pictures in the dirt with sticks. "They didn't talk much," he said, "but one of them smiled at me. She had the softest eyes I've ever seen." Officers slowly closed in on a small house at the edge of the village. It was a white cottage with a green door and flower pots. On the steps, the windows were always closed and the curtains were drawn. Marie had rented the place under the name Marie Leclerc. She paid in cash. The landlord had no idea she was connected to any missing persons. Police prepared a quiet operation. They didn't want chaos. They didn't want fear. They wanted to protect the girls if they were really inside. Alina and Mark were told to wait. Every hour felt like a week. Alina sat with her hands pressed together, whispering prayers. Mark stood by the window, checking his watch every few minutes. Then finally the call came. "We found them," So that was all the officer said before the line went silent. An hour later, a black car arrived at the guest house. Alina ran out the door before it stopped moving. The car door opened slowly. There they were. Lily and Lucy stood together, holding hands. They were a little taller now. Their hair was longer, tied neatly with pink ribbons. Their eyes searched nervously until they saw their mother's face. Then they both ran fast, without a word, into Elena's arms. Tears fell freely. Elena dropped to her knees, holding both of them, kissing their cheeks, their heads, their hands.
Out.
Mark joined a moment later, pulling all three into one long, shaking hug. He didn't say anything. Couldn't. His voice was stuck in his throat. The girls cried too, but it wasn't fear. It was relief. After all this time, they were home again. Not physically home, but back where they belonged, with the people who had never stopped looking for them. Later, when things calmed down, the truth began to come out slowly and small. Pieces. Lily and Lucy were safe. Marie hadn't harmed them. She had told them that they were going on a secret adventure. She gave them food, clothes, toys. She taught them how to read in French and how to stay quiet when they were in public. At first, they missed home and asked to go back. But Marie told them that their parents were on a long trip and they would meet them later. As time passed, the girls stopped asking. Not because they forgot, but because they learned to wait and trust. Marie had told them stories. She let them draw, sing songs, and play with puzzles. But she never let them speak to strangers. She had rules, strict ones. But she was never mean, just quiet. Sad sometimes, like she was holding a secret of her own. When police entered the house, Marie did not resist. She stood calmly in the kitchen, folding laundry. She said only one thing. I was trying to keep them safe. She didn't explain more. Alina was. Torn inside, she didn't hate Marie, but she didn't understand her either. Why had she taken them? Why hide them for 10 months? What was she protecting them from? Investigators were still working to understand Marie's past. They discovered that she had lost her only daughter years ago to a sickness. After her retirement from the cruise ship, she had lived alone. Some believed she saw the twins in something. In her brocore healed. Maybe she felt like the universe gave her a second chance, but none of that mattered as much as one truth. The girls were back. That evening, Mark and Alina tucked Lily and Lucy into bed at the guest house. It was the first time in nearly a year that they heard both girls say, "Good night, Mommy. Good night, Daddy." Sat by their beds long after they fell asleep. Alina stayed by the window, holding the music box in her lap. It played softly over and over again. Outside, the village was silent. Stars filled the sky, and the flowers on the cottage porch swayed gently in the breeze. The journey wasn't over yet. There would be therapy, questions, maybe even court cases, but that didn't matter tonight. What mattered was that the story had changed. Fear had turned into healing. And after 10 long months, the sound of their daughter's laughter had returned, soft, warm, and real. Back in Seattle, the entire neighborhood gathered outside Mark and Elena's home. Banners with the words, "Welcome home, Lily and Lucy," hung across the trees, and neighbors stood together with balloons, flowers, and soft music playing in the background. Children who had once played with the twins before they disappeared now stood with signs and teddy bears in their hands. It wasn't just a celebration. It was a moment of healing for everyone who had been praying and hoping for nearly a year. As the car pulled up to the driveway, the crowd grew quiet. The doors opened slowly. Alina stepped out first, holding Lily's hand. Mark followed, holding Lucy's. The girls looked around, blinking at the balloons and bright colors, surprised by all the faces they hadn't seen in so long. Then one of their classmates ran forward and gave them a hug. And just like that, the crowd clapped, smiled, and a few happy tears rolled down faces all around. The twins were home. Not just physically, but emotionally. Their bedroom had been left just the way it was. Toys, drawings, books, and their favorite stuffed animals were all still there waiting. Alina had cleaned everything in the days before their return. She even added a fresh coat of paint to the wall, with stars and clouds. Just how the girls liked it. That night, Lily and Lucy lay in their own beds again, side by side. Mark sat between them, reading from their favorite bedtime story, the one about the twins who traveled through a magic forest and always found their way back to each other. Alina sat in the rocking chair, humming the lullaby from the music box, just like she used to do. The girls listened quietly, their eyes slowly closing, finally at peace. The days that followed were full of small, beautiful moments. Lily helped Alina water the plants. Lucy sat at the kitchen counter while Mark cooked pancakes. They drew pictures of rainbows and boats, sometimes even including a figure they called Mama Marie. Always drawn with a kind smile and flowers in her hands, it wasn't always easy. Sometimes the girls would go quiet when asked about the past months. Other times they would whisper things like, "She said you'd come one day," or "We used to count the stars and think of you." They had memories, some sharp, some blurry, but nothing painful. Marie had treated them gently. She hadn't been a monster, just someone lost in her own world of sadness. Mark and Alina decided not to pressure them. Instead, they brought in a child psychologist who visited them at home. Her name was Dr. May, and she spoke in soft tones, asking gentle questions through games and drawings. The girls liked her. They talked to her about the flowers they planted with Marie, the bread they baked together, and how Marie used to read to them at night. Dr. May told Mark and Alina that the girls were emotionally strong, and with time, they would feel whole again. Meanwhile, the story made headlines around the world. News channels interviewed experts about the case, and articles were written about how a mysterious suitcase helped solve a case that had gone cold. But Mark and Alina didn't give many interviews. It already said what mattered, that their daughters were safe and loved, and they were moving forward. Marie was in police custody in Morocco, but no one saw her as dangerous. Her lawyer explained that she had lost her child years ago and had never recovered from that pain. When she saw Lily and Lucy wandering on the cruise ship alone, something inside her broke. She didn't plan it. She simply acted, thinking she was giving herself a second chance to be a mother. Psychologists and legal experts debated her case. Some called it abduction. Others called it a desperate act of grief. In the end, the courts agreed that Marie needed care, not prison. She was sent to a treatment center instead of jail, where she could receive therapy and support. Mark and Alina were asked if they wanted to press charges, but they chose not to. "We are not angry," Alina said quietly. "She gave us pain, yes, but she also gave our daughters love. And in her own way, she brought them back." In time, the girls wrote a letter to Marie, with the help of Dr. May. It was short, but heartfelt. "Dear Mama Marie, thank you for taking care of us when we were lost. We are back home now and happy. We miss the flowers and the stories. We hope you are okay. Love, Lily and Lucy." Mark mailed the letter himself. The family slowly returned to a new kind of normal. Alina returned to work at the library part-time, and Mark spent more hours at home, doing freelance design work so he could be around more. The twins started going back to school in small steps, first a few hours a day, then half days, then full days. Their teachers welcomed them with open arms and extra care. At school, the other children were curious but kind. Some asked questions. Others just wanted to play. Lily and Lucy became the quiet stars of their class, not because of what happened to them, but because of how strong and gentle they were. They helped other children, shared their lunch, and smiled often. It was as if their time away had made them wiser beyond their years. One day during show and tell, Lucy brought the music box to class. She didn't say much. She simply wound it up and let it play. The soft tune filled the classroom. Some of the kids listened quietly. They smiled. After the class, her teacher told Alina that tune has become more than just a lullaby. A reminder that even in the darkest sea, a light can float back to shore. Alina smiled. She had learned something too. Sometimes in the worst moments of life, a miracle hides inside a suitcase. Months later, the family took another trip. This time, not on a cruise, but to a peaceful lake just a few hours away. It was quiet, safe, and surrounded by trees. Twins ran on the grass, chased butterflies, and helped build a campfire. Mark sat on a blanket with Alina, watching them laugh, and whispered, This is how healing begins. Elena nodded, placing her head on his shoulder. We lost so much time, but we didn't lose them. Lily and Lucy called out to them. Come play. Mark stood and held out his hand. Let's go, he said. And together, the four of them walked toward the lake, hand in hand. With the sun setting gently behind them, and the soft sounds of nature wrapping around their laughter, the sea had taken them away once, but love had brought them home. This completes the 5-part story. Let me know if you'd like a title image prompt, visual summary, or another.